So now this brings us to the laws of refraction. First law, the incident ray, the refracted ray and the normal to the interface of the two transparent media at the point of incidence all lie on the same plane. What does this mean? Just like how we saw in laws of reflection, incident ray, normal and the reflected ray lied in the same plane at the point of incidence. Just like that, incident ray, normal and refracted ray lie in the same plane at the point of incidence. Why are they saying transparent media? If it is not transparent media, you can't observe refraction. For example, this. Is it transparent? No, it is opaque. It is opaque. Can light pass through this? Even if it's passing, you can't see it's not passing through this. So for refraction to occur, the media has to be transparent. It need not be completely transparent, but at least some percentage of transparent. Next law, the ratio of the sine of the angle of incidence to the sine of the angle of refraction is a constant for the light of given color and for a given pair of media. What is this given color? For now, leave it. I will discuss this a little later. Why color of light matters. For red light, it's different. For blue light, it's different. For yellow light, it's different. We'll come to that later. Ratio of sine of the angle of incidence to sine of the angle of refraction, I'll explain. But why is this for a given pair of media? Given pair of media means air glass, different bending. Air water, different bending. Water glass, different bending. So the pair of medium that is in media that's interacting through which light is going matters. That's why for a given pair of media, this second law is also called Snell's law of refraction. Suppose I say state Snell's law, you're supposed to write only the second law. So now, let me explain this second law little more in detail. So they are telling you sine of the angle of incidence to sine of the angle of refraction is constant for what? For a given pair of media, pair means two, media, and for a given color of light. Why this color? I will explain this a little later. You have to understand few things before that. Two media, I told you why. Air glass, glass air, different bend. What is this sin I by sin r? You have to have studied this chapter trigonometry called trigonometry in your mathematics subject. So after that, you will exactly understand what this means. So once you do trigonometry, this will make sense. But I will just explain something. Sine is a function. If you put any angle inside that, you will get some value. For example, inside sine, if I put 0, I will get sine 0 as 0. If I put 30 degree, sine 30 degree value is half. If I put 45 degree, sine 45 degree is 1 by root 2, like that. Sine is a function. That means there is something happening inside and it's giving you a number, an answer, a value. So, suppose I am taking, let us say, air and glass. Air and glass. In the first case, let's say my angle of incidence is 30 degree and refraction is 20 degree. It bends towards the normal. If I take sine 30 by sine 20, I get some number. Let us assume that number is 1.3. For same air glass, ditto, there is light coming, there is light incident on it, but now it's not incident at 30. Let us say it is incident at 45. You will observe this is something about 28 degree. If I take sine 45 degree by sine 28 degree, I will again get 1.3 only. So you will observe the number is repeating even though the angles are changing. Why? The ratio is the same. This is that constant and this constant is itself your refractive index. This constant is itself your refractive index. It's called refractive index of second medium with respect to first medium. It is represented like this, N21. Second medium with respect to first medium is equal to sin I by sin R. Second medium with respect to first medium means if light is going from air to glass, air is the first medium, glass is the second medium. So N glass is to N air. Understanding? So I hope this is clear till here. We have got our first expression and you've understood what is the meaning of N21. We'll go more in depth and you'll get a clearer picture. We just wrote one symbol N21 there and I told you this N21 is refractive index of second medium with respect to first medium. There is one more way of writing this without using sign of I and sign of R. We relate it to the velocity of light. See, I told you in the starting of refractive index, if this is air and water, what happened? You took 5 seconds to walk here. Yes, you had more speed. As soon as you entered water, because your speed became less, you moved away. You moved lesser towards. So what is happening? Refractive index is more. Density is more. Your speed reduced. Density is more, your speed reduced. They are inversely proportional. Refractive index is inversely proportional to velocity. Meaning, more the refractive index of the medium, lesser the velocity of light. They are ulta. So if I put N2 up and V1 here, so what will happen? If N2 is here, V2 should be down. Just like that. So can I say N2 1, 2 will go down, 1 will come up. Yes? So refractive index of second medium with respect to first medium is defined as the ratio of the speed of light in first medium to the speed of light in second medium. Let me repeat. This refractive index of second medium with respect to first medium. Refractive index of second medium with respect to first medium is defined as the ratio of speed of light in first medium to the speed of light in second medium. This quantity is also called relative refractive index. Relative refractive index, that means these two medium can be anything. These two medias can be anything. Air glass, glass air, water glass, diamond air, diamond glass, diamond crown glass, anything it can be. So it is relative. See, if I take diamond and air, I'll get some value of N21. If I take glass and diamond, I'll get some other value of N21. If I take water and diamond, I'll get some other value of N21. That means every time you're changing diamond with someone else, the value of N is changing. That means what? It is relative. Relative means with respect to different people, it is different. Relative, diamond's value, refractive index is changing with respect to the different media. So this is called relative refractive index, or in simple words, refractive index of second medium with respect to first medium. N21 is V1 by V2. So can I write N12 is V2 by V1? No problem. N21 into N12, what is it? V1 by V2 into V2 by V1. Cancel, 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 1. Or N21 is reciprocal of N12. Clear? So that means what? If I take air to diamond, I'll get one value of, or glass to diamond, or water to diamond, anything. Okay, let's settle with water to diamond. If I take water to diamond, I get some value of N. If I take diamond to water, I will get one value. That value will be nothing but 1 by N, reciprocal. So this is my second medium to first. This is my second medium now is diamond. So if you change which medium from where, if light is traveling from diamond to water, one value of N. If it's traveling from water to diamond, some other value of N. But those two N's are reciprocal of each other. I hope it's clear until here. Absolute refractive index or refractive index. It is given as N medium is equal to C by Vm. How does this actually happen? See, in relative refractive index, N21 was equal to what? V1 by V2. Do you agree? Yes. So, in absolute refractive index, what we do is, this is medium 1, this is medium 2. We will make medium 1 default as air. Let it be air only. And let us call this medium as M. So, N2, second medium is nothing but M. Ignore the 1 because it's always air. Velocity of light V1 in air is given as C. What is c? Velocity of light in air, that is c, is given as 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. For those who don't know, note it down. Value of c, velocity of light in air is 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. Velocity of light in the medium, Vm. So V1 is nothing but c and V2 is nothing but Vm. That's how you get this. So what is, so if you had to define velocity, absolute refractive index, you'll say absolute refractive index or simply refractive index. If they tell you define refractive index, you're supposed to give this definition. If you are giving that 2:1, you should say fully refractive index of second medium with respect to first medium is, and write. Okay, so now if they simply say refractive index or absolute refractive index, they're expecting this. So what are they saying? Refractive index of a medium is defined as the ratio of the speed of light in air to the speed of light in that medium. See, what is this? Speed of light in air. What is this? Speed of light in that medium, whichever medium it is. It may be glass, air, whatever. So, refractive index of a medium is defined as the ratio of speed of light in air to the speed of light in that medium. What is this value of c? c is found to be 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. So, there are few common values of n that you need to know. Other than that, it is always given in the question. Some common values of Ri. Only Ri means absolute refractive index. Okay, air or vacuum, the value of air or vacuum, the value of n is 1. For water, it's 1.33. For diamond, it's 2.42. Air has the least Ri, and diamond has the highest Ri, highest refractive index. So they can ask you one more question: which medium has the highest refractive index? Answer will be diamond. Okay. Let's just combine relative refractive index and absolute refractive index and see what we get. So we know that N21 is V1 by V2, correct? Now using absolute refractive index, can I say N2 is C by V2? Why? Because Nm is C by Vm. So I am taking N2 alone. So now N1, what will be N1? C by V1. What will be N2 by N1? C by V2 divided by C by V1. C by V2 into C, V1 will go on top. C cancels, V1 by V2. What is V1 by V2? It is nothing but N21. Therefore, N21 is nothing but N2 by N1. The relationship between relative refractive index and absolute refractive index of those media. We will give a small conclusion for you so that you don't get so confused. They won't ask you in depth to derive at all, but this is easy. In the second law of refraction, we spoke something about color of light and we said the color of light matters. Let us understand now, how does the color of light matter? First of all, in air, all colors of light, see there are 7 main constituent colors of light, VIBGYOR. You know VIBGYOR, the colors of the rainbow. What is it? Violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. So, all these 7 colors have the same speed in air. All of them travel at 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second itself. But as soon as the light enters any other medium, the speed of the light changes, the wavelength of the light changes, but the frequency remains same. Did it get too confusing? Yes, let's see what this means. Light travels like a wave, okay? Don't get confused, light travels in straight line, how did it become wave? Later on you'll understand more in depth if you take science further. So the distance of travel is called wavelength. From here it's starting and going, so this is called wavelength. The time for this is called time period. Agreed? 1 by time period is given as frequency. You have learnt all this in your lower classes in a chapter called sound. So now see, velocity is equal to distance by time. Here the distance that we are talking about is wavelength. The time we are talking about is t, time period, this much, for this much. What is 1 by t? F. So I'll remove this 1 by t and put f. So you get velocity is equal to wavelength into frequency. Now understand. So when light enters a medium, frequency does not change, it is constant. So if V increases, lambda also should increase. If V decreases, lambda also should decrease. Agreed? So when light enters a medium, the velocity and the wavelength of the light changes. Both change. If velocity is decreasing, even lambda will decrease. Directly proportional. Now we will understand the 7 colors and who changes by what and how much next. So now we have these colors, Vibgyor. Okay? So this violet color light has the shortest wavelength. In reality, if you check, violet has the shortest wavelength. Red has the longest wavelength. So as you go from here to here, wavelength keeps on increasing. Shortest to longest it goes on. V is equal to lambda f, I told you. F is constant. So if this is the shortest, can I say, if lambda is the shortest, can I say the velocity is the least? Yes. So it has the least speed. This has the highest speed or more speed. If speed is less, is refractive index and velocity are inversely proportional. If speed is less, what is refractive index? More. Violet color light has highest refractive index. Red color light has least refractive index. More the refractive index, more the bending. Less the refractive index, less the bending. This is very important. I hope it's clear. You need to know all this. Now, let's just conclude what all we need to know about refraction. The first thing that you need to know about refraction is definition. I taught you so many things, it's very confusing. For those who found it very confusing, learn this much. First, learn relative RI definition. That is N21. That one is enough. Then you learn absolute. This is N21 is V1 by V2. Learn absolute RI definition. The one that says Nm is C by Vm. Next, learn the laws of refraction. Okay, both the laws. Finally, learn this conclusion statement. All derivations together, I am putting it together here. Observe, N21 and N12 are reciprocals. N21 also means N2 by N1. N2 by N1, N21 is nothing but V1 by V2. V and lambda are directly proportional. This will give lambda 1 by lambda 2. This is your final expression that you need to learn. We will mainly be using this in problems. Okay? This is what you need to know about refraction. So we'll move on to the next concept, refraction through a rectangular glass slab. Now before we go here, we'll just have a short recap. If this is a rarer medium and this is a denser medium, if there's a ray incident on this interface, at the point of incidence you draw a normal. The ray was supposed to go like this itself, but since it's entering a denser medium, it bends towards the normal. See, it bends towards the normal. If it's going from a denser medium to a rarer medium, from denser medium to a rarer medium, then it had to go like this, but since it's going to a rarer medium, it bends away from the normal. I hope it's clear. If the ray is coming normally incident, that means angle I equals 0. It goes undeviated, irrespective of denser to rarer or rarer to denser. It does not show any deviation or bending. This much should be clear. So now, let us take a rectangular glass slab. So now, let us take a rectangular glass slab. We'll put a ray incident on this. This is the incident ray, the first ray hitting the surface. See, it's a glass slab. So this is air, this is glass, and this is air. Agreed? Air, glass, air. At the point of incidence, I will draw a normal. Now, this ray had to go like this, but it is entering a denser medium. So it will now move towards the normal. From here, this is away, this is towards. So it moves towards the normal and it keeps going down. Now again there is a change of medium. Again there is a change of medium. Now it's going from glass to air. It is entering a rarer medium. Draw normal. It is now entering a rarer medium. This rarer medium that it's going to enter now. So it had to go like this, but it bends away from the normal. If you extend this line, okay, if you extend this line, you will observe this ray and this ray are parallel. We will discuss this. This is angle I. First let's label the figure A, B, C, D. Let's call this normal 1, normal 2. Fine. And you can call this X. Fine. So now the angle between the incident ray and the normal, angle of incidence. Angle between refracted ray and normal, angle of refraction, R. If you can see. Okay. And now the ray coming out of the glass slab, the final ray coming out is called the emergent ray because it's entering and coming out. So this emergent ray, angle between emergent ray and normal, angle of emergence, E. So we have the incident ray, refracted ray, emergent ray, angle of incidence, angle of refraction, angle of emergence. What do we observe in this? The observation of this experiment. We will convert this to experiment later. So here first one, what is AB? Incident ray. Next BC, refracted ray. CD, emergent ray. Angle I, angle of incidence. Angle R, angle of refraction. Angle E, angle of emergence. The observation of this is, first, refraction is taking place at both the parallel surfaces. Refraction takes place at both opposite parallel surfaces of the glass slab. So refraction takes place at two parallel opposite surfaces of the glass slab. Agreed? Now, see, observe one thing. This ray, let's say it's bending by 10 degree. So it's bending by 10 degree. When it's coming here, it bends back by 10 degree. How much ever it's bending when it's entering a denser medium, that much only it will bend away when it enters a rarer medium. Listen carefully. It's bending some degree. Same it will bend when it's going away. So the extent of bending at this surface and this surface are same but in opposite directions. Let's say it's bending 10 degree here. Here it will bend 10 degree this side. If one is going anti-clock, the other is going clock. Vice versa. This is clock. Okay. So if one is going clock, the other is going anti-clock. Or if one is going left, the other is going right. But the extent of bending is the same. Which is why these lines are parallel. This statement what I said is given as a reason in your note section. Please go through it. Anyway, the main observation over here is incident ray is parallel to emergent ray. If you extend the incident ray, you will see that emergent ray and incident ray are parallel. Next point, angle I equals angle E. Angle of incidence equals angle of emergence. They are parallel rays, so corresponding angles are equal. So angle I is found to be equal to angle E. So this angle I over here is equal to angle E. See, they are parallel lines. You know that in parallel lines, different angles turn out to be equal. So here, angle I is found to be equal to angle E. The same thing what we just learned is given by an activity in your textbook, and they may ask, describe an activity to show the refraction through a rectangular glass slab. How do we do it? Take a rectangular glass slab on a piece of paper. draw a ray on one of the faces of the rectangular glass slab on the paper. Place 2 pins on this ray. Name it PQ. Go on the other side of the glass slab and try to view where are the pins. You will find that the pins images are here. Wherever you see the images, try to view it there and place the pins. Now, you have done viewing it. You can't see what is happening inside the glass slab. You can only see the image over here. So what are we doing? We keep the rectangular glass slab on this. We place 2 pins here. We come this side and try to view the pins. Wherever we find the pins are, draw the line and place the pins. Now, remove this rectangular glass slab. Remove it. You should have the outline of the glass slab. Remove the glass slab. Now, join these 2 pins. Join these 2 points. Let's say this is X and this is Y. Join these 2 points. This will show the refracted ray. If you draw a normal at X and a normal at Y, it should be dotted. If you draw a normal at X and a normal at Y, you will find this is the angle of incidence, angle of refraction and angle of emergence. If you measure I and E, you will find angle I equal to angle E. If you extend this ray, you will find that these 2 rays are parallel. Incident ray is parallel to emergent ray. This is PQ. Label these 2 pins as P dash Q dash. So, same ditto experiment, we have put it in words. Page 176, question 1. A ray of light traveling in air enters obliquely into water. Air, water, it's traveling in air, it enters obliquely in water. Obliquely means slanting, it has an angle. There are 2 types of rays, obliquely incident or normally incident. This is normally incident. Why are they saying obliquely? Why did they specifically mention obliquely? Because for normal incidence, refraction won't occur. Which is why they have to make sure refraction is occurring, they are talking about any other ray except the normal incidence. So this is called oblique. Fine? Okay. So now, ray is entering obliquely. Why does the ray bend towards the normal? So the ray was supposed to go like this. It bent towards the normal. Why? When a ray enters from a rarer medium to a denser medium, the ray bends towards the normal. Why? Because the speed of the light ray reduces in a denser medium. Because the speed of the light ray reduces in a denser medium. I hope you understood why obliquely. I hope you understood that it's moving from rarer to denser, that's why it's going towards the normal. And I hope you understood why, because the speed of the light ray reduces in a denser medium. Question 2. Light enters from air to glass having refractive index 1.5. What is that? When the first medium is air and the other one is just a medium, we learnt it in the previous lecture that this is nothing but N medium equal to C by V medium. Absolute refractive index. I hope you remember. If it's entering from air to glass, glass to air is not, it's ulta. Here it's entering from air to glass, so I can simply say whatever is given in the question is nothing but Ng, refractive index of glass, absolute refractive index of glass is 1.50. What is the speed of light in the glass? What is velocity of light in glass? Given that speed of light in vacuum is 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. So what's the formula we know? Ng is equal to C by Vg. 1.5 is equal to 3 into 10 power 8 by Vg. Send the Vg this side. Vg is equal to 3 into 10 power 8 divided by 1.5. 1s are 2s are. Answer is 2 into 10 power 8 meter per second. The speed of light in glass is 2 into 10 power 8 meter per second. Question 3. Find out from table 10.3 the medium having highest optical density. Also find the medium with lowest optical density. Now let's focus on the table. They have asked for highest optical density. We already concluded in the previous lecture, more the optical density, more the refractive index. In this table, they have given the value of refractive index. So first, what statement will we make? More the Ri, more is the optical density. Please write in words. I am using short forms. They've asked for highest optical density. Highest optical density means highest refractive index. Agreed? So who has the highest refractive index? Diamond. Therefore, diamond has highest optical density. Lowest optical density. Who has the lowest Ri? Air. Therefore, air has lowest optical density. Question 4. You are given kerosene, turpentine and water. In which of these does the light travel the fastest? Use the information given in table 10.3. So the table 10.3 is here. They have asked which of these does the light travel fastest. They have given refractive index here. What's the relationship between refractive index and speed? They are inversely proportional. That means more the speed, lesser the refractive index. They've asked who has the most speed. So least refractive index. So they've given kerosene, turpentine and water. Kerosene's refractive index 1.44. Turpentine's refractive index 1.47. Water's refractive index 1.33. If I want the highest speed, my Ri should be the lowest. Who has lowest Ri? Water. So velocity of light in water will be greater than, who has next lowest Ri? Kerosene. Velocity of light in kerosene, and this will be turpentine. So in which one does the light travel fastest? Answer is water. Question 5. The refractive index of diamond is 2.42. So they have given refractive index of diamond. If nothing is mentioned, it is absolute refractive index. So I can say ND is 2.42. What is the meaning of this statement? What is the meaning of this statement? ND is 2.42. We know that ND is C by V. 2.42 is equal to C by V. 2.42, this V is nothing but V diamond, velocity of light in diamond. 2.42 into VD is equal to C, or C is equal to 2.42 into VD. So the meaning of this, the meaning of refractive index of light is refractive index of diamond is 2.42 is that velocity of light in air is 2.42 times the velocity of light in diamond. That means, let's say diamond's velocity is this much, 2.42 into, you have to multiply, faster is speed of light in air. So the speed of light in air is 2.42 times the speed of light in diamond. That's the meaning of the statement of Ri being 2.42. So moving to the next topic, spherical lenses. It is so very important to understand spherical lenses. I am wearing the spectacles now. Why am I wearing the spectacles? Because if I don't wear it, my vision, what I see is not clear. So I am wearing this spectacle. This specs has lens in it. Some of you all must have seen some people don't wear spectacles and they wear lenses. Directly in the eye they put some kind of transparent object. What is that? Do I have this in my specs? Yes, I do. It's inside this fiber of the specs is glass. It's inside that. So, what is a spherical lens? How do we get it? A transparent material. Is this transparent? It's completely transparent, which is why I can see from it. Yes, through it. I can see through it. A transparent material bound by two surfaces. It has two surfaces. Okay, it has two surfaces, of which one or both those surfaces are spherical, forms a lens. That means there should be two surfaces. One can be spherical, one can be plane, or both can be spherical. No problem. There are different kinds of lenses. Let us say one side is plane and the other side is spherical. Then this is called a plano-convex lens. Why convex? You remember, when do we say concave? When you're entering the cave. When you're entering the cave, this is bulging outwards. If the light ray is coming here, it's meeting a plane surface. If the light ray is coming here, it meets a bulging outward surface. It's not entering the cave anywhere. Also, the other thing you need to note about lenses is, in mirrors, there is only one reflecting side. Only one side light can go. If light is coming here, useless. We can't see what is happening. In lenses, I can see through both sides. I can see from here also, I can see from here also. Why? Because it's glass. I can see through this side. I can also see through this side. Why? Because it's made of glass and it's completely transparent. So from both the sides, light can enter and leave. First type, plano-convex. Next, let it be bulging on both sides. This is called biconvex or double convex lens. Biconvex or double convex lens. Simply if I say convex lens also, it's referring to this. Observe in both of these cases, it is thin at the edges. It is thin at the edges and it is thick at the center. So a convex lens is thin at the edges and thick at the center. Thin at the edges, bulging or thick at the center. Let's say, what about concave? First plane, the other side, let's say, is like a cave. So if the light's entering here, it's entering a cave part. If the light's coming here, it's a plane part. So this type of lens is called plano-concave lens. Next, if both the sides are cave-like, such a lens is called biconcave lens. From here also it's cave-like, from here also it's cave-like. Such a lens is called biconcave lens or double concave lens. Or if you simply say concave lens also, we are referring to the biconcave lens. There are few other lenses called convex or concave, concave or convex. That's a little higher to understand. This much is enough for your syllabus. Now what we need to do here is, here I told you it's thin at the edges, thick at the center. What about this? It's thick at the edges. See the center? It's becoming thinner. So it's thick at the edges and it's thin at the center. Now, this lens, convex lenses are called converging lens. Why? You will see later, just like how I told you for mirrors. And a concave lens is called diverging lens. Please remember, a concave mirror is a converging mirror. A concave lens is a diverging lens. A convex mirror is a diverging mirror. A convex lens is a converging lens. It's reversed. Okay?